All right, here we go. All right. What's up, everybody? My name is Mitch. I'm here with my brother, Austyn Carta-Samuels, a guy that's pulled me out of many holes, who's been there with me through it all. One of my best friends, a mentor, one of the biggest blessings in my life. We're about to start on this journey here, recording this podcast together, and I'm pumped, and I think you guys are going to love it. And I'm excited, man. Let's get going.
Hey, let's get going. Mitch, why don't you tell them like what the intention is just with this first episode, like what we're thinking here.
Yeah, so first episode today, I want you guys to hear about Austyn's journey. Austyn has been through so much in his life, so much in his football career, so much in his football journey. And his journey and career span way beyond his playing days. He has made such an impact on so many people in this football community, and I just want you guys to hear his story because he's been one of the most impactful people in my life. And I'm thankful for him, like I've said. But here we go. We're here to talk about you, here to talk about your journey, and the ride, the hell of a ride that you've been on. I mean, just the absolute ups, downs, in betweens, just hell and back, man. You've been through it all.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Let's
Shoot.
go.
Shoot.
No. You're shooting right now. You keep shooting.
All right, let's ride. Okay. So I'll kind of talk about your story, and it's a long one. So coming out of high school, right, you're committed to Wyoming.
Yeah.
And you start as a true freshman, ball out, Mountain West Conference Player of the Year, New Mexico Bowl MVP. You come back for your sophomore year. You tell me all the time that you felt the culture of the program regressed. It wasn't something you wanted to be a part of. You wanted to achieve more than what you felt like you could achieve at Wyoming as a group. After the year, you started plenty of games, probably the most winning quarterback at Wyoming after only 2 years, and you hit the portal. Back in a time where the portal wasn't what it is today. It was a lot different. We'll talk about that here soon. But basically, your coach denies your transfer request, and you got to go home. You got to go to a JUCO. I think you told me you're taking something crazy, like 30-something credits or just something nuts. You're home. You're not playing football. Go to a JUCO, taking all these credits, walk on at Vanderbilt, finally get into Vanderbilt as a student, walk on to Vanderbilt as a student. You're on the scout team, and then a few years later, you're the most winningest quarterback in Vanderbilt history. 9 wins at Vandy is hard to do, and you're one of the main reasons why we know Penn State football for what it is today, because your guy James Franklin got that job because of you. After your playing days, right, you go to Missouri, and you're the recruiting coordinator at Missouri at a big-time SEC program, quarterback coach in Missouri at a big-time SEC program, coaching Drew Lock, Kelly Bryant. And at 27 years old, you're on the road to be a head coach in college football, big-time head coach, making a ton of money, and from the outside in, living the dream, living the college football dream. And you do what you do best. You follow your heart and go against the grain. And here we are. You step away from college football at 27. Basically, when you're about to be the CEO, you're like, you know what? I'm out of here, dude. I'm bouncing. This is not for me. So tell me anything I missed. Let's talk about your journey and go into more depth about it all.
First of all, man, I think you did a hell of a job. I think you did
Thanks.
a hell of a job.
I was nervous. I settled down now, but I was nervous as hell.
I think, recapping the journey is just like to be here. And I don't like Mitch knows, I don't like talking about myself much, but like today's the day to tell the story of, ultimately what shaped all of those things. And then now being here and leading Locked In and having a guy like this that I get to share time with and kind of share our stories to help impact you guys and to bring a little bit more truth and perspective, just realness and vulnerability for you guys. So, to recap his story, high school career had plenty of adversity in it. Like, we will dive into that throughout all these episodes and things like that. But I want to just reiterate, or make the point that, this life has chosen me. I feel extremely blessed to have the love in my family that I've had to be able to get me through moments that I know many have not made it through. And as you go through moments like that, you're just blessed with a depth of perspective and a depth of feeling that allows you to see other people going through those things as well. And so many of the times, like, especially in my coaching career, I was seen as so different, and I still am seen as so different. And it's like, but that difference is not some rebellious, like, part of me. It's that I just see the pain and the things that are going on all across college football. And I don't want to pour gas on the fire of pain and anger. I want to help you guys just get a perspective of what's going on out there. And it's the depth of my experiences and then the depths of Mitch's experiences that you guys will learn and listen to as we dive into all the things that we're going to talk about. So, I think, Mitch, it's really just you start with firing away any questions that you have at me about, like, how we got here.
Yeah, I mean, every time you go on a tangent, there's always something that makes me smile because I know we're very similar people, and we have very similar beliefs and a very similar heart. And when you say you're different, it's hilarious that what you mean by different is you have a heart and you have feelings, and you care, you're empathetic, and that's rare in college football. And so, yeah, you probably were looked at as different from all these coaches. There's probably coaches on your own staff that thinking you're a weirdo, that you're caring too much about the kids and putting too much effort into feelings. When in reality, when the kids know you care, dude, their potential goes through the roof. And it's so sad that that's you were probably looked at as a strange or an oddball in this life that we live. But it just made me smile because I definitely felt that way at times, just having such a genuine love and care for my teammates, and being told many a times that it's not a place for feelings. College football isn't a place for feelings, and to an extent, I understand that it's a business and you got to win games. But man, when you're working that long, people might as well care about them. But back to you, that just stuck with me and made me laugh. So why did you leave, dude? You're like, I kind of laid out the whole path for you. You're on the road to be a CEO. You're gonna be the next big time coach and making millions and millions of dollars and impacting so many kids' lives. Why'd you leave? What was the thought process there?
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is just ultimately, like, through my collegiate football experiences, the pain, like, of one feeling did it. And the one feeling that I share with everybody is when I share my accomplishments, or when you share my accomplishments, like starting 30 Division I college football games and a captain at 2 different schools and doing the things that I've done, the perception is that person is a hero, famous, happy, and everything's great. That's the perception. That's what I perceived when I would watch Tim Tebow or Andrew Luck on TV. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not how I felt. So the quote that I use is I say, like, the hardest thing in my life, and there are many things that you guys would perceive as harder, but the hardest thing of my life was being told by everybody else how special I was, how incredible what I was doing was. And I didn't feel that way about myself at all. And, you start to think of, as I have, obviously, like, how did that happen? And as you start to think of how that happened, I had a microphone in my face from the time I was 16 years old. Like, I had people asking me questions throughout my entire run. And there was some point where at 16, I was as pure as it gets, just Austyn Carta-Samuels. And then at 18, 19, 20, 21, it starts to become who Austyn Carta-Samuels thinks James Franklin wants him to be, who Austyn Carta-Samuels thinks the fans expect him to be, who his teammates expect him to be. And all of that I've learned, was created by myself, but it was created by myself in a world where I was fighting just to earn every inch that I could to accomplish the things that I accomplished.
Yeah.
And so that really birthed a journey for me to set out on a quest to figure out, how can I learn the depth of what I need to learn to allow young men to not have to go through what I had to go through. And ultimately, I think that's where you found your purpose, and that's why we're here, right, Mitch? I mean, like, for you, like, and I know this is about me, but as you think about your journey, like what's the crossover and similarities there for you?
Yeah, just when I get in front of a camera and I'm getting interviewed and I'm in the locker room and yeah, I'm trying to be the person that people think I'm supposed to be. My coaches are telling me I have to be. My teammates expect of me. And that doesn't mean it's not a guy that's not working hard and doing the right things. Of course, that's what we're doing. But it's a personality trait. It's being filtered. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's not maybe not caring so much about the guys that I love and more just being selfish and more task oriented. When you're in this role that we've been in and you've got the weight of a program on your shoulders and pressure is an earned privilege. I mean, it's an awesome privilege that we had. But there is a certain type of way that you're expected to act that kind of hinders you from being you. And that you, who you are at your heart, is the person that got you there.
Totally.
And when you lose your way and you lose your identity, that's when you start fighting these battles internally. Because I had you, but nobody else understood what I was going through. And you had nobody because you didn't have yourself going through all of this. So you're going through an identity crisis, and you think you're the one that's messed up.
Right.
So, you're going through all this stuff, and you're sitting here like, am I the problem? Is something wrong with me? Am I not acting the right way? But
Totally.
it's just these chains that have shackled you that don't allow you to be who you are and your true authentic self. And when you're robbed of that freedom, it's hard to find joy.
And I think like it's so easy on the outside to look at that and go, oh, he's saying his coach put him in chains. And it's like, I'm not even here to villainize the coach and say that he maliciously put me in that situation.
No.
But I will put you in this situation. I'm a true freshman. I get an interview with the paper as I'm going into my true freshman year, and I tell the paper, I expect to be the starting quarterback. Like, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Like, I'm working to play, and I expect to be the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And I was recruited to come in and compete for that job, blah, blah, blah. And then you get called up into the head coach's office. And again, he's not attacking you.
Yeah.
He goes, Austyn, like, you can't say these things. And that's where it starts. Like, well, coach, that's what I genuinely felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but you can't say those things.
Exactly.
And it's like, so then now where's the line?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's the line?
Yeah.
And I think the more pain and the more adversity that you go through, that line just keeps moving.
Yeah.
And I think the rebellious side of me, or the perception of me being rebellious, like, is I stick to who I am a lot of the time. And that's leaving college football for you, leaving college football as a coach for me, turning down the CFL as a quarterback.
Yep.
Like, these are decisions that I made because I trusted what I felt was authentic to what God ultimately wanted from me and like what my intuition felt. And so, yeah, it just becomes really difficult to remain who you are when you're under the lights and under all these things. And again, like, it's not, we'll talk about college football in great detail because a lot of it is the way that college football is set up. Mm-hmm. But I think the hardest thing for people to understand is like, the world's not black or white. It's gray. Like 1 + 1 in many situations emotionally doesn't equal 2. It equals 3. Like, you can perceive something the way you perceive it, and I perceive it the way I perceive it. And those are two different things. And yet we both believe what we believe. And I say that because I'm like, I'm not here to shit on college football, and I'm not here to shit on college coaches. No. Like, I'm here simply to discuss what happened to me. Yep. And ultimately, me being able to watch this play out with many, many, many athletes that I've been blessed to work with over the last 7-8 years as a coach, and even the locker room conversations as a player. Yeah. And so these are things that ultimately just exist. And I think Mitch and I laugh, and we'll have our own talk about this, but we laugh about like, oh, you guys in high school are like dying to go play in college. And all our guys in the locker room up in college just wish they were back in high school, dude.
No doubt.
And it's that dynamic that I think these types of conversations are the conversations that ultimately just make this a lot more human and take the anger out towards people and allow us to just have real vulnerable conversation.
Yeah. And, like we always talk about, being rebellious, all you were doing is being yourself. Um, and it's just such a crazy concept that it's from the outside looking in, it's like, I just can't understand that. Why can't you always be yourself? And there's examples like that. I remember another thing I said in the press, this is at Media Day in late July. I said I was a calculated risk taker, right? Just something so simple. I'm in front of 400 cameras, ESPN, ABC, CBS. There's a million people in that room. I've talked for 5 hours already that day. I said I'm a calculated risk taker. I thought it was cool. I was like, that was
Dude,
a pretty.
yeah. Let me tell you, like, calculated. So meaning I'm thinking about this before I do it, but I like to take risks
Yeah.
after I think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, right? So I'm sitting there thinking, I walk off that podium like, dude, I just crushed that. That was pretty damn good. So this is in late July. Dude, after week 3, okay, I threw like 2 picks. I get a call from my OC, hey, come see me. I'm like, oh, God, okay, here we go. Thinking it's just run of the mill. I'm like, all right, here we go talk to coach. Go up to his office, and he's like, I should have brought this up earlier. But to me, a calculated risk taker is a negative adjective. And I was like, what are you talking? This is like 8 weeks later. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't remember. What are you saying? It's like at Media Day, you said you were a calculated risk taker. I was like, okay. He goes, I think that's a negative thing. I was like, okay. Like, what? Your point? He's like, you turned the ball over too many times yesterday. Yeah, dude, I threw 2 picks. Did you see the second pick where we didn't block the A-gap linebacker and I got smoked and the ball went 40 feet in the air? That wasn't a calculated risk, dude. I got housed. What are we doing here? But again, besides whatever, all the BS, that made me feel shelled in my interviews. Because I'm thinking, okay, my coach is watching, and what is he going to say? So every time for the rest of the year I get up on the interview, I'm a robot. I'm dry. I'm vanilla because I'm like, oh, well, I don't want him to, I don't want him to call me into his office and say, hey, you can't say that. And something I thought was pretty dope. And I'm getting ridiculed for it. So if you watch my interviews from last year, dude, I'm so cut and dry, vanilla. I'm not myself. And I backtrack a million times to clarify what I meant, so I'm not getting called to the coach's office. And it's just little stuff like that week after week you're going through. You start to lose who you are because you feel like the hardest thing is you feel like you're not allowed to be Austyn. You're not allowed to be Mitch. And when you can't do that, when you're not aligned personality-wise, it's almost impossible to be successful on the field. And you were the person that brought that to my attention when you told me when we brought that up in conversation, and that was the hardest thing for me. But I mean, you understand as much as I do that thief of your true identity, and it's tough.
Well, and that's like, again, it's so easy to listen to what you just said and then say, well, it's the coach's fault. It's like, but it's not. It's like, he's getting paid millions of dollars.
Yeah.
He's getting expected to perform at this type of level. You lose a game and your quarterback turned the ball over a couple of times, and all he can remember is what you said in that press conference a couple months ago. He's not trying to make Mitch Griffis not Mitch Griffis. That is not his objective. Yeah. But I'm saying that because many will listen to that and perceive that that's you calling out your coach. That's not what you're doing right now.
No.
What you're doing right now is you're talking about these things that are real.
Yeah.
And for mine, you alluded to it. It's like after my sophomore year. So I had a 3.8 GPA at the University of Wyoming. I'm a captain. I had started 20 games and again, had a bunch of these accomplishments, really special things. And more than any of that is the impact that I made on that community. The speaking at the local high schools, the working at the hospitals, the doing those things that, I took so much pride in. I make the decision to leave. The decision to leave was that we were 3-9. our culture, I felt, was regressing. So I just wasn't as happy as I, had been. And, losing does a lot of that too. But
No doubt.
because I had done so many things so well for myself, what I left for was I just felt like there was a ceiling over my head. Like,
Yeah.
I'm somebody who really, really thrives when I'm pushing myself,
Yeah.
and I don't believe in limitations. And so I make the decision to leave. I talk to my parents. I'm, crying as I walk off the field after my last game of my sophomore year. And then I go into the coach's office the next day and I tell him. And the answer, after all that, 3.8, great kid, all these things, he looked at me straight in the face and he said, "Is this a done deal? You've already decided this." And I said, "Yeah, like me and my family have talked about it. We're going to do it." And he said, "This," and he pulled out my scholarship papers. And at that time, your scholarship papers were 4-year or 5-year contracts. Now, the rules have completely changed. And that's another reason why I feel blessed to be talking to you guys about this, is because the rules are different now. Like, you get to hear what it was like back then. And he pulls these papers out and he goes, "These, I'm going to make sure that you never play Division I college football again." And for me, guys, I'm 19 and a half. 19 and a half. I sat there stunned, and then I didn't say anything back that was negative, but like, I was in my head, I was like, "Good luck. Yeah, right." And then I leave that room. I start getting offered a bunch of scholarships within the next 2 weeks, to come to find out that what he said was true. And he blocked it. So now I have a choice. And mind you, again, the choice is even less relevant. What's the most relevant is, how's that make a kid feel? How's that make a kid feel? And you'll very quickly learn how I felt. But basically, I get offered all these scholarships, and then I get word that I've officially been blocked, and I can't take any of them. I can't go anywhere. So the choice now is D1AA or D2, which was not why I was transferring, right? I was transferring to push myself beyond the environment that I was in. That wasn't a D1AA or D2 school. And guys, they're incredible D1AA and D2 opportunities. So it has nothing to do with that level of ball. I'm just saying that wasn't what I left for.
Yeah.
So I had one choice. That was to move back home, take 30 hours in a semester so that I could graduate with an AA degree. And that AA degree would allow me to go back to Division I college football. So I make that decision. Like James Franklin said, like, make me make a tough decision, I'll make it every time. And it's like, that was the tough decision that I needed to make. I knew what I wanted. I knew what I was going to do. But now I moved back home. You're starting quarterback, dude, in a town of 25,000 people. Everybody knows you. You drive across the state line and I'm on the billboard. Like, number 5 jerseys all over the stadium. And now I'm at home on my couch, no idea what my future is, can't even take these scholarships.
Yep.
My girlfriend and I break up because she didn't understand, like, why I was leaving her and all of that, and I'm sitting there with my family. And you can imagine, again, this is something where it's like going from the high of starting quarterback in major Division I college football to being on your couch with no idea where your future is after all the work and all the things you had done. And it was a very, very difficult time in my life. And so I'm very blessed, really cool story. My mom applies to 10 different schools for me as a student because she's like, if I learned anything, Austyn, I can't rely on football. And I get accepted into Vanderbilt University, and James Franklin had been hired there about 5 months before that. Call over to the program. He goes, "Yo, tell me how I have a chance to get you." We talk for a second. I end up flying out there. He goes, "Well, I don't have any scholarships to give you, but you can come walk on." At that point, I had to bet on myself, and I did. And it's an SEC institution, like, opportunity to go compete for the starting job at an SEC school, and it's one of the best academic institutions in the country. And here we go. So that's how I got to Vanderbilt. and the pain and the depths of that pain when your future is completely uncertain like that after being on top of the mountain to then going up into college football and having to play running back and receiver on the scout team for a semester while you're ineligible, to working and earning the respect of your team and becoming a captain and starting quarterback for the most successful team in the history of that school. It was a hell of a journey, but what it did for me was it just introduced me to the pain that we can feel. And again, on the outside looking in, that's Austyn Carta-Samuels, dude. What do you mean? And it's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Trust me.
You have no idea.
Trust me. And yeah, I mean, Mitch, do you have any questions at all about that path or the hardest things about that path or something that you think these guys like would benefit from listening to in that capacity?
Yeah, I wanted you to talk more about that because just naturally as humans, right? You're at the high of highs at Wyoming, right? You are the man. You're the starter. You've won a ton of games. You're a young starter, right? You play as a freshman and a sophomore,
Yeah.
and you're putting up stupid numbers, and you're the man, dude. You are the man. And you come home, you're sitting on your couch, and every time you go to the grocery store, people are asking, "What are you doing here? Why are you home?" And you got to answer. And people don't understand it, and it's so easy to. We always say like, don't let the outside noise affect you, and who cares what people say, dude? You get asked that enough times, bro. You start. It's natural to feel embarrassed. You're embarrassed. You're confused. You're anxious. What's next? Am I ever going to play college football again? Did I make the right choice? So you're a young kid, 19 and a half, 20, and you just got punched in the face, and you have no idea what the hell comes next. And I also think from the outside in, it's just another one of those stories that you hear about a guy who took a break from football and just grinded on his own and learned from it and came back and had this awesome story. And I think why those stories have become more and more common is because, like you said, when you're in the pits of hell, you're riding solo. Yeah. You got your parents, you got your siblings, but they have no idea. They've never started a college football game.
Nope.
They've never been denied a transfer, and now they're back at home after being the man. They got no idea what it's like. So what were the things that you took away the most in that period of your life when you're waking up every day just asking, what the hell just happened to my life? What am I doing right now? What are some things you took away, and how did it help you in your future, and how did it help you at Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible question. I'd say like the first thing that needs to be said before I dive into that is like, there's a perception that like when you're in high school, right? Like I want to play college football, and then you get offered a college scholarship or you sign a college scholarship. Like there's an illusion that like that means that everything's good now. And it's like, dude, it just becomes the next thing.
Yep.
It just becomes the next thing.
Yep.
So after you start 20 games in college football and do the things that I did as a true freshman and true sophomore, it's not only is it that pain and that isolation and all of those things, but it's also the expectation that you have of yourself now. Like the expectation that I have of myself is bigger and better than anything I've done before. And now I'm sitting here with a complete question mark of just having to revel in the unknown.
Yeah.
And I think the perspective that I want to provide for guys listening more is like what I felt at that time.
Yeah.
Lost.
Yep.
Scared. Crossed. Sad.
Yeah.
There was a huge thing that crushed me, which was like I gave my whole self to that community. And to see that when you take that jersey off and you're not there anymore, like maybe 2% actually care about Austyn Carta-Samuels.
Yeah.
The other 98, they care about number 5. Number 5's gone. Well, fuck him then. You know, pardon my language. But it's see you later.
Yeah.
And I think at that age, like that was what hurt the most.
Yeah.
Was just knowing how much of my heart and myself I gave. And then all to just be on my own.
Yeah.
And so I think the thing for me was like hope, bro.
Yeah.
And that's where like,
Yeah.
we will definitely be talking about God quite a bit through some of these episodes and things like that. But like at the time of my life, like at that time in my life, I was still a young kid asking myself why God would put me in this situation.
Yep.
Like, just honestly, that's where I was at.
Yeah.
And in that position, you feel alone. Well, try asking God why he put you there and
Right.
then tell me what you feel, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so alone doesn't even do it justice.
Mm-mm.
Like being around my younger brother and sister and having to act tough, even though they know that I'm not in a good place.
Yeah.
That's where like the mask is born. Like that's where, yeah, it's in the depth of that is where the mask of like putting on the front
Yeah.
comes in. And I would say that that's where the mask was born. And to be quite candid, and guys, I was a great person the whole way through. Like I'm not saying, I'm not saying anything bad about who I was, but that mask didn't come off until I was 28 years old.
Yeah.
Stayed on from the time I was 19 to 28.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something just to all my quarterbacks that are going through it out there that used to play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know how many guys are sitting on their couch right now that feel the same way that I felt and are probably still wearing the mask?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at a young age like that, it's just so hard to process. So I think for me, I was lost. I was scared. I was afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could go back and tell myself like, something to keep me going. But I was very, very fortunate. And that's why I feel so blessed. And that's why I feel God having designed me for this is like my parents, they were able to keep me there.
Yeah.
And that ultimately led to me being able to take that next step. And so while I'm insecure and beat up and don't know how to present myself, and that's why I got into my Michael Jordan phase where it's just like, bite down on your mouthpiece, bro, and just kick the shit out of everybody. And that's kind of the way that things went for me after that. And then comes James Franklin, who that man is an incredible person. And he saw that I was hurt.
Yeah.
And he challenged me, but he challenged me to become the man that he knew that I was after I had lost that. Yeah. And so I would say, the depth of that despair is what's given me this perspective, because all these young guys see across the country and all these parents see and all the people talk about is the guys that are on TV. Mm-hmm. Like, how about the thousands who had a story where they were headed to places they thought they were going and then that crashed and they didn't make it out? I'm one of 1,000, one of 10,000 maybe, that makes it out and starts for a top 20 team in college football in the SEC after that. There's another 9,999 that you don't even know about.
Yeah,
and
no
it's
doubt.
that 9,999 that is why I got into coaching.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to sum all that up, just so the audience, so the people knows, the guys know who you are as a person. And when you left Wyoming and you realized that a lot of those people only cared about you because you were number 5 and not because you were Austyn Carta-Samuels. It's not that the people's you didn't care about the people's opinion. What you cared about is what you thought. You thought you were building genuine, heartfelt relationships, because to you that's what it was, and that's who you are. You're a big-hearted person who loves to serve, and when you realize that feeling wasn't mutual, that's what hurt you.
Definitely.
I know that's a little bit of a side, but that's the type of person you are, and I want everybody to understand that's who you are, and that's why it hurt you. It wasn't because 20,000 Wyoming fans didn't care about you anymore. It wasn't about that. It was the fact that you thought you spent so much time and so much of your energy and so much of your emotions and passions in building those relationships and giving to those people because you loved them. You did. And not to feel that back, it hurts you. And we always talk about this. It's not the action that hurts you. It's the fact that they did something that you never would have done to them. That's what always hurts the most. And I know that's how you think, because that's how I think. It's never the action. It's just the fact that someone could do something to you that you would never do to them. But okay, you get into coaching, right? And you have this passion to serve. You've been through the weeds. You've been through the shit.
Yeah.
You've been through ups and downs. You've been through the. We'll get into the successes of your journey because they're awesome and they're so cool to talk about, and we'll get there down the road. But past that now, we're going into coaching, right? So you get into coaching because you want to be the guy that you didn't have. You wanted to make a change to this business that had a lot of evil in it. And I love college football more than anything in this world, dude. College football has been so good to me. I've been a huge fan my entire life. How blessed am I that I got to live out my dream and meet some of my best friends that I'll have relationships with forever at a great school with a great team. But there's a lot of, just like in this world, there's a lot of evil in it. And you get into it to be the change. So as you're stepping into it, what was your main goal? What was what you wanted to change? If you could kind of put it into a few words or just to categorize it, what did you want to do?
I wanted to humanize all of us with each other so that we could present ourselves as we truly feel.
Yeah.
And I think the moment that we stop recognizing that we are all human and we're all on the roller coaster emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, like we're ignoring what we feel.
Yeah.
And if we ignore what we feel, we're on a scary path.
Yep.
And so my objective wasn't to disrupt anything. My objective wasn't to tell anybody that they were doing things wrong. It was to be the light.
Yeah.
It was to go in there and be the light. And Mitch, like, I'll touch quickly on like the story of, what ultimately birthed my purpose, truthfully, in college football.
Yeah.
Was my grandfather was my hero, psychologist, worked with a bunch of professional athletes in the Bay Area. And he was the one that paid for me to go to Vanderbilt as I walked on before earning a full scholarship. And I'm going into my senior year. And some of you may know, some of you may not. But going into my senior year, we had 4 of the players on our team sexually assaulted a girl. And it was bad, really bad. And something that happened in the room got sent out via text to 40 people. And I was one of them. And I was asleep in my room. And basically, I'll tell the story very quickly about what happened that night. Is I get a knock on the door at 2 a.m. Not even really a knock. They bang through the door. And they go, "What's the password to your phone?" And I gave them the password to my phone. I now know what they did, but they just basically did something, threw the phone down, ran out. Okay? Where that goes to is a week and a half before the season starts, the front of the newspaper says, "Star Vanderbilt quarterback listed as witness in rape investigation." Guys, this is the building where that sexual assault went down. This is where I was asleep the entire night. But that's what it said on the front of the paper. I've now learned, obviously, as Mitch has learned too, like they're going to use your likeness for anything to get clicks and all that stuff. They're going to get it, but that's not where the real pain came in. I can deal with that. I know the truth.
Yeah.
So I'm good with that. It was when my own dad had to ask me twice to explain the situation because he needed clarification to make sure that I wasn't involved. Guys, there were 30 witnesses called to the stand in that case. I was never called to the stand. They used my name for something. And basically what I was a witness to was that they came into my room and deleted something off my phone because what was on my phone that they had sent is a crime. The reason that I'm telling this story is because it taught me probably the most profound lesson I've ever learned in my life, which is you are not in control. You aren't. You aren't. There is not a thing in the world that I would have done different that day. Not one thing. God is so proud of the way I acted that day. And yet, you can still Google search this shit and see my name around it. Now, they had to come out and clear my name, But it's an ongoing investigation, so they didn't even do that for another 6 weeks.
Yeah. In the heart, in the heart of the SEC, you're in an SEC schedule.
Dude,
Dealing with
I'm getting
enough.
thousands of messages on Twitter, all this, you shouldn't play, you piece of shit, you scumbag. Dude, I literally wasn't in the building, nor did anything. But they wrote the quarterback's name on the paper.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. And the way that I explain this, again, there's a reason that I'm telling this, is I explain this as that put me on my own island. And that's not a good place to be going into a college football season. Start off really well, throwing for over 300 yards a game in the SEC. We're in week 6 or 7. I think it was week 6. And we're going in to play Georgia. But remember, guys, spiritually by myself, like on my own, I'm on this island. That's why football is my outlet. Like, it was my time to go into whatever fucking mode you want to call it, right? But I was not in a good spot. And after everything I had been through before that, you can imagine what that spot felt like. And then I get a call from my dad on Tuesday. My grandfather, my hero, psychologist, and why I wanted to be a psychologist, passed away of a stroke. So I now have that going on. And then I lose my hero, who, if there was anyone on that island with me, that was the guy who was on that island with me. So then I'm at such a depth of despair that I'm in my room and I'm crying and I go, God, I feel like I'm already dead. I don't know if it can get worse than this. I literally don't think it can. And I said, please use me as a vehicle with my grandfather in mind. Please use me as a vehicle to help people that are going through or will go through the things that I've had to face over the last few years. Now, let me tell you, did God answer that? Then, tear my fucking ACL on Saturday again.
Oh my God, dude.
But the really beautiful thing happens there too, because I'm laying on the field and I'm looking up at the sky. I'd never been injured like that before. Like, we're beating Georgia, dude. They're number 4 in the country. Todd Gurley, Aaron Murray. It's the third quarter, and I'm laying there and I'm like, you got to be shitting me. First. You got to be shitting me. But second of all, like, and I do believe it was God, but I didn't experience it as like him talking to me or anything. Yeah. But like, I just looked up at the clouds and I was like, dude, my grandfather's up there. Like, I can get my ass up and get off the field. And so I got up and I kind of half jogged whatever to the sideline. And I just remember then the sequence of events that happened was basically I go home to speak at his funeral, which I would not have been able to do had I not had I not gotten hurt. We beat Georgia in that game, which I believe was him in a lot of ways and God. Like, so I get to feel those two things. I get to be there for my family. And then I fly back and I have the doctor look at my leg and go, do you want to try to play? And I was like, bro, don't, pardon my language, don't fuck with me like that. Like, I literally have a torn ACL. What are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, but like your leg is extremely strong. And so he's like, you could probably manage to play your last 4 games, like on a torn ACL. And I was like, say no more, let's go. You know what I mean? And the whole thought was, this is my grandpa. This is God answering my prayers. And now I have an opportunity to be there for my team and end my career the way that I want to. Yeah. I do it. We go 4-0 on a torn ACL, beat Tennessee and Neyland, beat Kentucky, beat Wake. And then going into the bowl game, James Franklin calls me into his office and he goes, what do you want to do, Austyn? Because there's going to be 25 days until the bowl game. And I was like, I don't know. I kind of want to finish this thing out with the boys. And he's like, I think you can play in the NFL. And he's like, you've given me something that I don't know if I've ever had a player give me in terms of the sacrifice that you've made for this team. I want you to get your surgery and I want you to be a coach through bowl prep. Well, guys, I wanted to be a psychologist. I always wanted to help people. So I wanted to take over my grandfather's practice. Well, when my grandfather passes away, like, now I'm not going to take his practice over. That's 6 years of school and a whole lot of hours with a stranger and having to try to build your own business. So look at God working here, where then God gives me the opportunity to coach my guys in bull prep. I feel the impact I have. I'm like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And at that point, I got connected with Trent Dilfer because KJ was in the Elite 11.
Yep.
Trent said some beautiful things to me, man. After I flew up to Oregon with him to work an Elite 11 event, and he looked at me and he said, I have not heard a guy ask questions the way you're asking questions at your age, Austyn. And he said, do you want to be a part of Elite 11? And I said, I mean, yeah. But I said, also, like, I kind of want to continue to pursue my education in psychology. And he, thank you, Trent, thank you, was like, well, you'll always have the opportunity to come coach for Elite 11. He's like, you won't always have the opportunity to go get your grad degree and go coach in college football.
Yeah.
So he's like, do that. It's like, all right, SEC Network or SEC Radio, do an interview, say, you know, this is what I want to do with my life. This is my story. And it's so cool, dude. Gary Pinkel calls me the next day. And Dave Christensen, who is the head coach at Wyoming, who you guys know the story now at this point, okay? Like, he had coached and was the offensive coordinator with Chase Daniel at Missouri. So Gary Pinkel knew the story from Wyoming. And he had to play my ass at Vanderbilt. So he knew everything I'd been through. So he basically didn't even interview me. Just was like, get your ass out here. Like, let's go. And so that's how my road goes into college football. And the reason that I told the story like that is because, like, there's so much purpose behind everything there. Like, the learning that you're not in control, the being on my own island, the losing my hero and mentor, and that was my purpose, was his purpose. Then James Franklin putting me on track for my purpose without me even knowing. The story of me playing 4 games on a torn ACL is a story that reverberates through all of you guys and through coaching over and over and over again throughout my story. And now I get to be a recruiting GA at the University of Missouri. And I think we'll go into plenty of recruiting conversations and all this. And I know, Mitch, I'm running with this, but like, I think it's important to hear it all in that way, is that then I'm a recruiting graduate assistant at Missouri. And guys, I watched college football and I now saw the reasons why I and many other people felt the way they felt. I was now watching that happen on the coaching side. And that perspective made me sick to my stomach. And it wasn't Gary Pinkel. It wasn't a specific coach. It was just the way it all was set up was something that I love about James Franklin or Chris Peterson, who coached my brother at the University of Washington. Is like, these are men who coach the heart and the person before the football player.
Yep.
Thank you. And that's why 2 of them are 2 of the best coaches I'll call James Franklin that in college football history. You win 9 games 2 years in a row at the University of Vanderbilt, dude. You know what you're doing. So anyway, that then perspective, I call my mom when I'm 23 years old and I go, Mom, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to contribute to the thing that made me feel the way I felt.
Yeah.
And she goes, okay, that's awesome, Austyn. Well, what do you want to do then? And I was like, I want to help kids. And she's like, well, do you want your grad degree still? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, then why don't you just stay until you get your graduate degree? And I was like, you're right. And that's when Drew Locke and I formed our relationship. And so he's very important to me. Then I started making an impact in the recruiting world at Missouri. But I get my degree. And I go up to the head coach and I go, Coach, I want to leave. And he's like, no, we can't lose you, bro. We can't lose you. And I was like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, I got to go. And he's like, well, what if I promote you to being the recruiting coordinator. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm 25 years old, dude.
Yep.
25 years old, running a staff of 9 people at the University of Missouri,
Yeah.
recruiting the entire country and getting to be able to do that.
Yep.
Massive opportunity. Call my mom, tell my mom. My mom goes, Austyn, based on your purpose and everything you've described to me that you want, it would probably make sense to get that title and stay there.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. So I do that for a year and a half. We recruit 9 NFL 2 and 3 stars. Now I'll pat myself on the back there. Okay, and that was AJ Ofadale was a huge part of that. AJ, I love you, but basically do a hell of a job there and get named by 247 Sports and ESPN like a top 30 coach under 30 in America and all of that, and then basically at that moment, I went into head coach again, and I was like, I want to leave. And he said, well, Josh Heupel just left. And he goes, and we're hiring this guy, Derek Dooley, and he's never coached quarterbacks before. But he's going to be the offensive coordinator, and he has to coach quarterbacks. He's like, he has 3 people he wants to interview. Would you interview for that quarterback coaching job? I was like, hell yeah. They hire me to be Drew Lock's quarterback coach. That's when I got to recruit Kelly Bryant from Clemson, who also went through, and I'm sure he'll be on here at some point, but went through a bunch. And anyway, like then after that, I was still unfulfilled, dude. Still like at odds with myself. And I go in there again and tell him, and he said, okay, look, at this point, like, dude, you have to tell me what you want. And I said, well, I've developed all these psychological exercises. I said, I know that these guys on our team are from Generation Z, born after the year 2000. They have on average the same level of anxiety as a 1950 psychiatric patient. And I was like, I want to teach them about flow, and I want to do some spiritual and mental work with them. He goes, come into my office at 6:30 tomorrow morning and tell me what you want to do. And I was like, all right. I'd been waiting for that my whole life, dude. That I was fucking juiced about that.
Yeah.
So I go give this presentation, and he's like, done. Let's do it. So put in exercises with the whole football team. We're having meetings together, talking about how we feel. We got hit with bull sanctions and all this other shit. We had 0 guys leave our school for a year and a half straight. We had the highest team GPA in the history of the school as football players for 3 consecutive semesters. I walked into the bowl game against Ohio State last year in Jerry World, and dude, 40 guys, bro, run up, ACS, ACS, ACS. And it's like, because they knew that I cared and they knew what I did. And so, really long-winded way of going all the way back into it. But I think, if the purpose of this first shot at you guys getting to know me, and then second shot getting to know Mitch, like I think there's a depth in that story.
Yeah.
That needs to be understood.
No doubt.
Because you ask yourself then what I'm sure you're going to ask me next, which is who the hell leaves college football at that title, at that age, who does that? And it's somebody who knows that the need is there.
Yeah.
I'm not guessing. I'm not hoping. I know what you guys feel. Yeah. I have it. I have hundreds of exercises from all these SEC football players talking about struggles with suicide, becoming a man, anxiety, fear of failure, fear of what their parents think, fear of what their coaches think, fear of the... Dude, you know it, Mitch. I know it. It's going on. So it's like, I know when I talk, people listen because I know it's true.
Yep.
I felt it. I worked with and work with you, one of them, hundreds, now thousands of athletes who have opened their hearts up to me. There's a lot going on underneath NIL money and scholarships and being badass and playing quarterback.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think that's why you'd take a bullet for me, dude.
Without a question.
And I think that that's it. And that's, the brotherhood that we have, was established through that. And I think, I honestly think, Mitch, that that's like a beautiful party hat to this thing would be you just talking about, you guys have heard my story.
Yeah.
You understand now what I've been through. You understand what my purpose is, which ultimately is to bring enlightenment to all of you guys so that you know who you are.
Yeah.
And you have a quarterback now that I worked with that has a lot to say about what that process looked like and what my influence has been on his life and what you perceive to be what we're doing. And I think honestly, you ask me any other question you have after that, bro, but like I think that's a beautiful introduction to you guys getting to know me for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's your whole journey. Just what you continue to do and what you've done your whole life is just to serve. That's who you are, and that's why we're doing this, and we'll get into that later. And it's awesome. It's awesome to be a part of this, and so many guys will DM me and ask me questions and a lot of them think they're dumb questions, and just asking me if what they're going through is normal. And it is so normal that it's unnormal that how many people go through the same things, and people don't understand that your feelings as a quarterback and what you go through, it's almost universal. Every guy is feeling a certain way. And what's so cool about this is we've been through it all. And every time people ask me, what it's like, I always tell them the same thing. I've thrown game-winning touchdowns. I've thrown game-losing interceptions. I've played in front of 10,000. I've played in front of 110,000. I have won the game for my team. I have lost the game for my team. I've been the starter. I've been benched. I've laughed and smiled after football games, and I've cried my eyes out. I've been through it all, dude. I've been through it all. And that's why when a kid asks me advice or asks me, you know, what to do, I can confidently give him an answer that's genuine because I've had the same thoughts he's had. The
And
same
that's
thought.
and this depth of perspective is where you're at now. You've
Yeah.
always had that heart.
Yeah,
Now, Mitch,
exactly.
tell them what you did with me
Yeah.
that ultimately, like, I think, again, that party hats, everything I just said
Yeah.
is if I'm a kid right now, I'm sitting here going, this guy's wild.
Yeah.
And he's saying some wild shit right now about
Yeah.
what he can do for athletes and ultimately the awareness he can bring. And I think rather than me talk about what I
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think you should
Yeah.
talk about what I do.
Yeah. And just like Austin said, the heart was always there. I've always been a sympathetic person, and the care and that was always there. But what Austin helped me do in this journey was really stay true to myself through it all. And like we talked about in the beginning of the episode, it's really hard to do that when you've got so many outside influences telling you when you're this figurehead of a program and you got all these opinions and outside voices telling you this is how you have to act or showing you what you need to do. It is hard to stay true to yourself. And through it all, even before I was in that role, Austin grounded me and helped me stay true to myself. And really, it's just self awareness and being confident and being true to who you are all the time. And at first, it didn't really make sense because when I reached out to Austin, I didn't think about that, dude. I wanted to learn how to throw more efficient. I wanted to learn how to throw the way that they teach how to throw. So when he's talking to me about this mental stuff, I'm like, dude, I don't care about this bullshit. Like, I could not care less. And then I had one conversation with him, and bro, I didn't think about throwing for 3 months. And the crazy thing is my throwing got better. And all it was because I had this sense of understanding of who I was, this sense of joy, and sense of confidence in being the person that I knew I was supposed to be, and being okay with being that person. And people always ask me, well, should I work with Locked In? I'm like, dude, they changed my life. Austin changed my life. And it has nothing to do with throwing a football. He changed my life because every single day I know what I'm here for, what my purpose is, what my core values are, who I'm supposed to be, what God intended me to do in this life, and just staying true to the person that God created. And in this world where you see so many different influences on social media, it's so easily accessible. When you're in this role and you're being told to act a certain way, you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, it's very hard to be successful in any aspect. But when you can stay true to yourself, regardless of stats, wins, any of that, you'll always be successful because you're happy and you get to be the person that God intended you to be. And that's what Austyn helped me do. And through that, when I was going through the bullshit of my last season and going through just the hell and back, the ups and the downs, I was always able to come back to myself. And the best parts of my week, the worst part of my week, was when I called him because I knew he was going to grill me. And I knew he was going to push me to be a better person. And I avoided it. I didn't want to talk to him because I knew he was going to bring up the things that I needed to talk about, but that were the hardest to talk about. And the best part of my week was when I got off the phone with Austyn. And I was like, damn it, that dude is right, man. I got to call him more. And we talked twice a week, and he pulled me out of the holes that I was in. But and it took me from him pulling me out of the holes to me pulling myself out of the holes because of what we did together.
Totally.
Going through the hell that I went through and thinking back, okay, what have I talked about with Austyn? What can I do to pull myself out of this? And reverting back to what we've done, the training that we did, the relationship that we had, the talking and the conversations that we had, I was able to pull myself out of a lot of these holes. And I wasn't perfect, and there were a lot of holes I couldn't pull myself out of. But there were a hell of a lot that I did. And I would not be where I am today without Austyn's help. I would not have had anywhere near the amount of success I had without Austyn's help. He has been just an unbelievable friend, an unbelievable mentor, not just for me, but for so many people across this journey. But I'm so thankful for it. I'm glad you guys get to hear his story because it's real. The shit he talks about is real. There's not another guy out there who's been through more shit than him. And to go through that shit at 19, 20, 21 years old and be able to get back up and continue to keep going and have that perspective and have that maturity, it just solidifies even more why he's so good at what he does, because he's been through it and he can relate. And there's so many people that can't relate to what you're going through because they don't know. And that's not their fault. And Austyn talked about his parents. My parents are my biggest influence in my life. I would not be anywhere without them. They are my two best friends, the people I love the most, had my back through it all, supported me through everything. And it's not their fault, but they never started a college football game. They never played Power 5 football. They never been the head of a program. So they didn't know what it was like when you play well and you win, but you still feel a certain type of way. Or when you lose, they're there to tell you they love you, but that's not solving any problems. You know, you appreciate it and you're thankful for it for sure, but it's not making you feel better. But Austyn's a guy that I was able to relate to because I would tell him, hey, dude, this is what I'm going through. He's like, yeah, bro, welcome. And welcome to it. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Like, what are we talking about here? You're not going to help me get through it? He goes, no, I am. But I want you to know, welcome to it, bro. This ain't shit. What you're going through ain't shit. You know, and it just changes your perspective and it allows you to have that outlet. Or, you know, he was a lifeline. And obviously more than a lifeline to me, a friend, a mentor, a brother. But he was a guy that when I was going through it, I was like, hey, dude, I'm going through it. We talk, we'd laugh about it, realize it ain't shit, and we'd move on. And I'm glad you guys got to hear his story because I've heard all this before. But I love hearing it because it makes me laugh, it makes me smile, it makes me love this guy even more because I understand. You get to see who he really is, the authentic guy that he is. And all of this stems from a big heart that loves and wanting to serve people, and everything else comes from that. So
and guys, the only thing that I'll say to put on that too is after listening to me and hearing my story and the depth of all of that, and now knowing as I tell you, like I take a lot of heat. And I mean, Mitch, why do you think I take that heat?
Austyn, I've seen it firsthand. Austyn takes the most amount of heat in the quarterback community that I've ever seen, and it's because he's going against the grain, and going against the grain simply by caring about the person and not the thrower and the paycheck and the social media bullshit. He cares, and it's almost synonymous to what we've kind of been talking about with college football. He is humanizing the quarterback business. He's humanizing football. And I don't think people like that because it takes a lot of effort, and it doesn't always make you the most money when you start off. And it's the harder path.
And this is not at anybody.
No, it's not.
For me, no, what I'm about to say
go ahead.
is not at anybody.
Yeah.
But it's after everything I've explained about my own story, what Mitch just explained about the work he's done with me and what that's done in his life. And Mitch is one of many, guys.
Yeah.
This community has expanded to a point where there are many that feel this way. Think of what we're saying when we're talking about that guy being the guy who has to take it all. And even then, that's not why I'm saying it. This is what I'm saying it for. Imagine how deep my purpose is to take that shit all the time from everyone for helping. And I think that's, if I want you to know anything, to know that. And that's why we're here.
Yeah. That's yeah. There's no better way to sum up Austyn Carta-Samuels in a person. He'll take a bullet for a stranger 7 days out of the week. No question.
Well, I love you, dog. I think that's a hell of a start. And
Yeah,
now,
that was awesome.
now here pretty soon at some point, we're gonna get Mitch going, and then really, guys, like for us, I think a huge thing is like just for you guys to create correspondence with us and dialogue with us. So like when you see this video, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, it's like throw comments down below it and send us messages.
Yeah.
Because this is the part of what we want this to be, is you guys getting to humanize coaches, players, and talk about what's really going on. Because I think the most beautiful thing, guys, is we are going to step into a world where this is normal. Yeah. It's just that there's going to be a lot of guys like me and like Mitch that get tomatoes thrown at them until it finally gets there. And I'm down to take some more tomatoes.
Damn right.
All right, that's it, dude. I appreciate your guys' time. Like, subscribe, comment, get to know us. Appreciate you guys. Mitch, any parting words?
Appreciate you guys. We're in for a hell of a ride. It's going to be awesome.
Hell yeah. I'll see you guys later.